Good morning, Crazy Poodle Lady here again. I'm going to be looking at my notes because there's a lot of them. But I'm going to tell you some things that make groomers crazy because apparently I'm not the only groomer that these things drive nuts. Different names for different clips, depending on where you live, who you are, where you went to grooming school, where you apprenticed, who you know, who you don't know, what books you read. There are so many different names for so few trims in poodles. Now, I'm not saying there's not a lot of poodle trims. There's a ton. But there are so many names for each trim, and nothing is standardized in the world of grooming. And that's just poodles. There's, I'm sure indefinite numbers of names for trims for other breeds as well. But I'm going to address poodles today. The trim where your dog is one length all over, fairly short, in groomer terms, probably a 5 or a 7 blade, and there are pom-poms around the ankles. I have heard that called a clown. I've heard it called a ponjola. I've heard it called a Miami, a bikini, a strip with cuffs. I can't even imagine how many other names there are for it. When I went to grooming school in Colorado, they called it a bikini. But most people that I encountered said, I want my dog shaved with just a little bit of floof around the ankles. So there you have it. Then there's the Continental, which is the traditional show trim for poodles. But so many people have liked it and modified it because keeping a dog's hair banded and wrapped like you have to do a show poodles so it doesn't break off because it's 8 inches long is a little crazy for the normal pet owner. So then we have the historically correct Continental, which is the same as the show cut but much shorter. And it's called that because historically that's what people used to do. When they were a sporting dog, they kept that trim to keep their vital organs warm. The pom-pom on the tail was to find them in the water. They had a patch over each kidney to keep it warm, and then the big jacket to keep their heart and lungs warm. Now it is mostly for show, and people still like the look, myself included, so they have modified it and made it shorter. So the historically correct Continental is pretty much exactly the same as the show trim, only shorter. Myself, I call mine the Muddy Creek trim. What I've done is made it a little shorter yet than the historically correct Continental, and I don't leave the rosettes on the butt, and I also shave the neck. So I've even made up another name for it. Some people call it a lion trim. Some call it a Scandinavian lion trim. To me, a Scandinavian lion trim is completely different than a Continental trim. Some people have called it a European. To me, the European, the Scandinavian lion, the European lion are all the same trim. They're way different than the Continental. Some people have even called it the T trim, which to me, the T, the European, the Scandinavian, the European puppy, the Scandinavian puppy are all the same trim. They have a big, long jacket with long fur on the legs, no shaving between the jacket and the pom-poms on the front legs. And they have shorter on the loin and rear end area, and then pretty fluffy legs with a very sharp angulation on the rear leg, but to each their own. Then there's the lamb cut. Customers will come in and say, I want a lamb trim. Generally, they are dogs that are matted so badly you can do nothing but a number 10 strip. Xena, get off my chair. My camera's moving because my cat is on the chair that's holding the setup. Anyway, the lamb trim to me is a number 4 blade on the body. In grooming school, they taught us lamb, 4 letters, L-A-M-B. It's done with a 4 blade. Town and country, they said was done with a 7 blade. More letters, smaller blade. More letters, bigger blade. It's hard to understand. 7 blade, 7 is bigger than 4, but 7 is shorter than a 4 blade. Anyway, it's kind of crazy. But a lamb trim to me is a 4 blade or a 5 blade on the body, long scissored legs. Some people call that a teddy bear trim. To me, a teddy bear trim is when there's a long hair on the face and you trim it up much like I would do a Shih Tzu. Other people, a teddy bear trim is a number 4 blade on the body and a poodle face. So then there's the modern or the Asian, seriously, there's the modern or the Asian trim. The new style of teddy bear face or puppy face is really rounded with hair on top of the nose. We never did that when I was grooming them, and it's the new Asian fusion or Asian trim, and it makes the head super round, the ears super round, and so everything has a really round look. The muzzle is really round, there's hair on top of it, which we used to call a donut trim. Now it's Asian fusion. Then there's the town and country, what I call a town and country. 7 blade on the body, long legs with kind of a, this on the top of the hip and on the top of the shoulder. The lamb trim, you shave more and then skim off towards the leg, so there's no big definition between the body and the leg. The legs are quite a bit longer, but it's blended between the body and the legs. In a town and country, it's not. It's very sharply defined between the body and legs, and the long hair on the legs starts up higher on the body. Some people call that a Dutch, some call it a Royal Dutch, some call it a Pajama Dutch. What I call a Dutch, Royal Dutch, and Pajama Dutch are very different. To me, a Dutch trim is you take a blade the same width as the body, or same width as the tail. You drive it right up the backbone all the way to the neck. The neck is shaved completely with a 15 blade. Then you'd use a pattern blade to go up the spine. And in the Dutch, it's a very narrow one blade width down the loin. In a Pajama Dutch, I do a much wider blade width, the width of a regular blade. I do a 15 blade, and it's just on the loin all the way up and across and down the other loin. And then the Royal Dutch, to me, is a little bit larger yet, but not quite as large a shave on the side as the Town and Country. So if you're looking at the side of the dog, the Dutch has a little piece shaved out of the loin about this wide. If you're looking at the Royal Dutch and the Pajama Dutch, it's just maybe one blade width, like a 15 or a 10 blade width. And then the Royal Dutch I do longer. The Town and Country, everything is done except for the shoulders and the hips. Then lastly, what I called, or what I was taught in school as a strip, is one length all over. When we did a strip on a poodle, we still did clean feet, we did clean face, we did poodle top knot. We would round the ears if they needed a little rounding to make them nice and neat. Some people call a strip that, plus you shave the head, you shave the ears, you shave the tail. You don't leave any hair on the dog longer than a number 10 blade, which is really short. Some people call that a lab trim, some call it a retriever trim. I've heard it called a puppy trim. Well, if you say puppy trim and you mean shave off the top knot, shave off the tail, shave off the ears, you're going to be really surprised when you come in there and there's 5 inches of hair on the shoulder, and it's blended from the point of the bottom right where the tail is all the way to the tip of the top knot, like a puppy trim is in the AKC kennel, in the arena. When you when you show a dog in a puppy trim, they have super, super long hair. Basically, your dog's grown from birth to 6 months old and just shaped. And if you're looking for that and you ask for a puppy trim and somebody thinks a puppy trim is what I call a lab or a retriever trim, and they shave every bit of hair off your dog you've been growing for 6 months, you're not going to be very impressed. So that's also called a sporting trim in my world. But what I'm trying to get at here is when you ask for a trim by name, please describe what you want. Bring a picture, make a description, tell us how long you want. Even if you don't know inches, like I want this much or I want that much, or anything you can do to help the groomer decide exactly what trim they call what you're calling. Because if you go in and ask for a lamb trim, you could get much, much different trims in different areas of the country with different groomers. So that's my groomer confession for today. Have a wonderful day.